Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Rapid ECG interpretation session with PEGA, Practical EKG Academy. We're going to be taking a look at this 12-lead ECG today. We're going to be breaking it down and building it up channel by channel. Now, this is Rapid ECG interpretation. There will be a link to a deep dive on this very same ECG in the description down below, so you can check that out, where we'll be going into details of what it is that we're doing and how we're doing this. Okay, now rapid ECG interpretation, let's get to it. So single channel, somebody hands you this, they expect you to interpret it on the fly. Very typical in a telemetry setting. So the only thing you can reliably do with a single channel is rate and rhythm, right? Rate, as long as you can see your waves, you can pull that off of there. Rhythm is a different story. But rate, I like to grab one of these QRSs that lands on a line here. So right here, and I'm sorry, my colors just are not my friends. Let's switch colors. Okay, good. So I'm going to start right here. 300, 150, 100. This is roughly halfway between the two. I'm going to say that the rate here is 120. 120 while we're zoomed in here. So we got our rate. The atrial rate, or the P waves, they seem to be present before every single QRS, right? So they appear to be married to the QRS, or they are giving rise to this QRS. So this seems to be an atrial rhythm. Whether it's coming from the SA node, we'll see that in a moment here. So we have our rate, 120. The atrial rate seems to be the same, right? And anytime somebody mentions rate, your response should be a rate of what? Now, taking a look at the P wave itself, look at this one right here. Oh, this one is even better. Look at this. It has this M wave shaped. This is indicative of left atrial enlargement. In order for that to be true, the P wave needs to be 110, 120 milliseconds wide. This is 2 boxes, a little over that, so maybe 90, maybe 100 milliseconds wide, not quite. While I'm down here, let's see this, the PR interval seems to be 1, 2, 3, a little over 3.5 boxes long, so there's no conduction delay, there's no first degree heart block. The QRS itself, it has this kind of swoop. See this down here? That's kind of interesting. I'm going to be taking a closer look at that later on. The QRS itself is roughly 2 boxes long, maybe a little bit bigger, so 80, 90 milliseconds. Just a quick gauge over here. As far as what else? QRS, ST segment, T wave seems to be fine. Let's take a look at the QT. So R to R, this is roughly 1, 2, 2.5 boxes. So 1.5 small boxes here. Whoops, 1.5 small, 1.2. Okay, so my hat. Whoa, that is just horrible. Sorry. Let me just draw a better one. Actually, let me do this a little bit better. Let's find one of these QRSs. Here it is. Here it is. So I'll use this one. From here to here, it's roughly 2.5 boxes. So same as before, it's just a little easier to see. 2.5 boxes. Half of that is 1 and 1.5. So 1 and 1.5. So if I draw my line down here, and this is kind of cutting into the T wave, but is it really? Remember, the T wave, you have to measure, find the sharpest slope, which is right here, and kind of, so almost, I would say almost. Not quite, but this is borderline. Oh my God, so many borderline things here. Borderline this, borderline that. So borderline QT. Okay, borderline QT. That's a lot of information we pulled off of a single 10-second strip. Let's keep going. So here we have the exact same strip, right? The strip we were looking at, that's this top strip over here. So this is what we were looking at over here, and that's all a part of this 12-lead ECG. The only difference is, I'm sorry, I'm going to change my colors right off the bat here. The only difference is here we have an addition of V1 and V5, right side of the heart, left side of the heart. The thing that stands out to me immediately is this T wave. It's kind of flat. It doesn't have a very characteristic morphology, right? So my mind immediately goes to potassium, electrolytes in general, but potassium here, and I'll be double checking that on the 12-lead ECG. The size of this S wave, look at this, the size of this S wave is kind of big, 5, 10, 15, roughly 17 milliseconds. The huge S wave here, my mind immediately goes to LVH, left ventricular hypertrophy, or left bundle branch block. Now, when it comes to the left ventricular hypertrophy, I'm going to be using the Sokolov criteria. And the Sokolov criteria states that you should use S-wave in lead V1, which is exactly what we're looking at right here. And the R-wave in either V5 or V6, I'm just going to take a quick glance here. V5, V6, whichever one is bigger. So the R-wave in V5 is bigger. I'm going to utilize that, which is exactly what I have here. Measure that out, and that's roughly 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 boxes. When you add the two together, you get 25. Sokolov criteria says that if the addition of these two waves, your number, your value is greater than 35, you indeed have LVH. We do not, so no LVH. Left bundle branch block, the QRS needs to be wide. It needs to be wider. Here it's still roughly 2.5 boxes, so maybe 100 milliseconds, but I'll take a closer look at that when we get to the 12 lead. See how the information changes and how the evaluation changes going from a single lead to a 12 lead here. What else stands out to me? Nothing at the moment. Okay, let's keep going. All right, first thing that stands out to me here is, whoa, and my colors are not my friends. There we go. AVL again. In the previous video, we had AVL issues as well. So AVL, you want to check out AVL and see what's going on here. If it's a mechanical issue, double check your electrodes, wires, machine itself. If this is coming from the heart, there could be a potential issue. You do not want to leave AVL alone. But let's keep going. So far, we have an assumption that we're dealing with sinus tachycardia. Let's indeed confirm that. So I'm going to be taking a look at the P waves. Here, it's upright in 1, it's upright in 2, it's upright in AVF. This is coming from the sinoatrial node. It's added bonus AVR. It's negative in AVR. We're talking about the P wave. This is coming from the SA node. So indeed, we do have sinus tachycardia, and the rate is 120 beats per minute. Okay. What else? What else stands out? Look at this. Look at this kind of slurring. I think I mentioned that in the previous slide here, but see that? It seems to be global. That is interesting. That is interesting. It's present all over the place. So what I'm talking about here, for those of you who are new, the R wave, it doesn't go up and then come down. It goes up and then kind of swoops out. So something's going on there. Something is causing it to do that. Now let's switch our plane. So we're switching from our frontal or coronal plane, right? From looking at the Eindhoven leads, we're going to switch over to looking at the precordial leads, or the horizontal plane here. And here I'm looking for the R wave progression. R wave progression. R wave is coming up nicely. Oh, here it's kind of fragmented. We need to come back to that. And then indeed the QRS switches from a predominantly negative QRS to a positive QRS. That happens after lead V3 and sometime before lead 4. So that's perfect. That's normal. However, look at this fragmented QRS. Fragmented QRS, for those of you who are seeing this for the very first time, fragmented QRS is something that is not to be left alone. However, for it to be immediately dangerous, it needs to be contiguous. So it needs to be present in the lead prior to or after the one where you noticed it. We don't have that, so this is an isolated incident, if you will. However, I do want to take a look at the QRS, and what I'm going to do here. And by the way, in the clinical setting, you can't do this, right? Zoom in, zoom out. So what I do is I'll take a snapshot with my phone, and then I'll blow it up with my phone and take a look. You can do that. A nice little trick to use. So I'm just going to measure this up, right? So the first inflection here and this fragmented QRS is corresponding, it's correlating to this, to other QRSs. The J point seems to be right there. So I'm going to pull another line right here, maybe a little bit inward more, and this gives me a nice view where I can measure out the width of this QRS. So 1 box, 2 boxes, 2.5 boxes. That's roughly, okay, let me get my brush. We're talking about 100 milliseconds here, right? 40 plus a half, that's 20. That gives us 100 milliseconds. So we ruled out LVH. We don't have LVH. And by the way, anytime you have V1 and V2, where the S wave in V1 and V2, it should be larger in V2. Here it's larger in V1. You want to double check your electrodes. Make sure you didn't interchange them. I don't think that's the case here, so let's keep going. And as you can see here, we have that slurring in the lateral portion of the R wave. So something is going on there. The QRS is not wide enough. We do have left bundle branch block morphology in V1. There is a slight slurring globally present in all of the leads. So I would say that we indeed do have incomplete left bundle branch block. So we have an incomplete left bundle branch block. And all of this stuff I'm going into a whole lot more detail in the expanded video. Click in the description down below, deep dive, right? So far, when we add all of this stuff up, right, all of the information we've gathered here, what we have, I'm sorry, I'm going to get rid of this. If you're handing this off to somebody, this is what I would do. Is I would say that we have sinus tachycardia at 120 beats per minute. We have an incomplete left bundle branch block. Remember, we talked about left atrial enlargement, right? That is not 100%, but it's pretty darn close. So left atrial enlargement, I would mention all of this to whomever I'm handing this ECG off to, or if I'm just putting it in my report. And then AVL. Do not forget to investigate AVL. AVL needs to be answered, and AVL would be incredibly helpful when looking at left atrial enlargement. Why? Because it's looking at the left atrium. Okie dokie. Hopefully you learned something in this short little video. There is an expanded deep dive version down in the link below. Feel free to click on that and check that out. Thank you. Thank you.